Okay, we're going to kick things off here and get started. Just be mindful of everybody's time. My name is Nora Luongo, and I am on the internal marketing team here at Whereoware. If this is your first webinar with us, thanks so much for joining us. If this is your second or third, or you've been with us a lot, thanks so much for coming back and joining us today. We're going to be talking through 5 quick fixes you can make to your website. As always, we will be recording, as you can see on this slide here. We're recording this webinar, and we will be sending out the recording. We'll be sending out the slides, and we have a checklist too that goes over everything that we're going to be talking through today. And handy to if you're on Twitter, feel free to tweet along with us with the hashtag #WowWebinar. We love when you guys get involved on Twitter. If you have any questions, feel free to write them to us, and we'll really try to get to as many as we can after the webinar. And if we don't, we'll be sure to follow up with you afterwards. And with that, I'm going to kick it over to my colleagues, Erin and Sarah.
Great, thanks, Nora. So, hi everyone, my name is Erin Alamdar. I am a digital strategist here at Whereoware. My job is to help my clients work with them to understand their business needs and develop a digital marketing strategy across all their channels, web, email, social, and pay-per-click advertising. And then I work with the teams here at Whereoware to execute those strategies and to create those customer touch points at all stages of their journey.
Hi guys, my name is Sarah Carlson. I'm a project manager at Whereoware. So I work with our clients to build out new web projects. So that takes the form of going back and forth between clients and developers to translate their needs. That also means that I end up doing a lot of informal consulting, knowing web best practices and making recommendations to those clients based on their business needs and the constraints of any platform or of any modules that we're using. So a little bit about Whereoware. We have 18 years of experience in the digital space. We work mostly on email campaigns, those personalized websites, cloud-based solutions, and mobile applications. That also means that we have experience with data integration to get data where it needs to go, and doing analytics to figure out how these things can serve our clients and their needs and room for improvement. We've also expanded into search engine optimization and pay-per-click services. So now that you know a little about us, we'll go ahead and get started with our webinar. I'm going to start with an overview of the 5 areas that we're going to touch on today. So our homepage is the center point of what we're going to talk about today. The homepage is our first and maybe last chance to attract and retain each customer. We all know that first impressions are important, so this is the website version of once you get a user, you have just a little while to make them want to stay. So a stat worth keeping in mind as we go through this presentation is it takes less than 1 second for someone to form an opinion. So that means it takes 1 second to decide if they're going to click further in and give you conversion or if they're going to bounce off. So the 5 areas that we're going to focus on today that do tie into that home page are visuals, so what does it look like? Content, what type of information are you putting out? Navigation, that means the header area, what they're supposed to click, buttons, and the footer as well. We are going to talk about conversion, so how you're turning the visuals, content, and navigation into clicks, into revenue, into lead generation, etc. And of course, in today's world, we can't do a webinar without talking about mobile. So how can all this be optimized on those devices that your users are viewing your site on? So before you talk about how you can improve your website, you want to understand the ways you should do that given your particular business, your particular users. So we recommend using some sort of data analytics tool. So once you get inside a data analytics tool, there's a lot of things to look at. First, what are people clicking? What's important to them? What's drawing their attention on the website now? So in one example, you see the sign in is heavily clicked, but maybe that request an account is not as heavily clicked. So that's an entry to understand first, what you're doing well, and second, where you can improve. What's being purchased. So what are your best-selling products or services? What is falling behind? Are there a lot of pages that people are seeing and then bouncing away without converting? And if so, why is that? We can also do a little bit of research into what your keywords are. So by that, I mean, what is the language your users are speaking when they're searching for your site? The classic example is I'm a retailer who sells shoes. And I may think of myself as having search words like footwear. But then when I look inside the data, I may see that people are looking for heels or sneakers or flip-flops. So I want to be able to make those words searchable for my users. If they want to find flip-flops, I'll help them find that on my site in a way that makes sense to them. I want to conform to their thought process. So if you haven't already done so, a first step towards any of these quick fixes is putting an analytics tool on your site. We have analytics, something we've worked with before. It's free. You don't have to be a developer to use it, and it has a lot of great insights. It even has classes that you can take for free about how to leverage that tool. But here's a list of other ones that can be used as well to get insights into what's being clicked, purchased, etc. The other thing you want to do is think about testing what your users are clicking and how things are working once you make any change. So here's a list as well of those user testing tools.
So diving into our first quick tip topic, we are going to talk about imagery. When it comes to giving small updates to your website, imagery can have a big impact with just a few simple changes. Sarah mentioned earlier that it takes only less than a second for a user to form an opinion of your site, but a couple more seconds are all you have to grab a visitor's attention and make them go to the page that you want them to go to. So what's a good way to do that? Hero image. Hero images are the first thing someone is going to see when they go to your site. So we want to make sure that hero images always reflect your brand and are always calling a user to action. So in these examples here, we can see a nice use of a call to action button overlaid on the hero image for a really effective first impression to draw the user in and get them to click through. One thing to keep in mind when you're choosing imagery for your website is white space. Apple, of course, does a really good job of this. It's very key to their brand, using a lot of white space, but some things that you can do to incorporate more white space into your website, you can consider reducing the amount of text. You can declutter images and just keep things really simple. The reason that this is an effective design tool is because it gives a lot of breathing room for the page, and it allows the user to focus on a product or a specific message without a lot of distractions, drawing their attention away from what we want them to be focused on. With imagery, you can also use it throughout your site, so taking it beyond just the home page and just hero images, you can incorporate it into your navigation. Maybe you want to call out a special promotion, or using one of those analytics tools, the most visited page on your website, just to make it super easy for your users to find it. You can call that out using a great image, and again, a call to action button so users can click through and get to where they need to go without having to look around for it too much. You can also use heroes on product category pages as well. With product images, one tip to keep in mind is think about mimicking the brick and mortar experience in an online space. So with your product images, you want to include alternative images that show different views, different angles, different styles and colors. So think about if you're shopping in a brick and mortar store, you're able to, pick a shoe up off the shelf. You can, turn it around, turn it upside down. You can look closer at it. So adding those different views online is really going to help mimic that experience, as well as adding those product details, zooming in on the aspect of your product that really makes it stand out or that you think that your users will be particularly interested in. "28% of all sites fail to provide at least one in-scale product image." The reason that this is an issue is because, again, when we're shopping online, we don't have product in front of us. And in trying to mimic that brick and mortar experience, one thing that you can do is provide an in-scale product image by pairing that product with a person or giving it context in its surrounding environment, or placing the product next to an object of a known size. So that helps the user kind of visualize it and see what they're actually getting if they were to order that image or if they were to order that product. No one wants to think that they're buying a full-size rug for their house and then get it in the mail and it's a rug for a dollhouse. So in-scale images are a good way to just be really transparent and communicate exactly what your customer will be getting. Interactive zoom and rich media are also really effective, and again, not really widely used. So it's a good tactic to take advantage of and really make your website stand out, make it look really state-of-the-art, and it also really improves the experience. So if you have a great lifestyle image, focusing on one product. So in this example, we have a dress. But then the model's also wearing earrings and bags. You can zoom in on those details of the image, and then below feature images and links for the user to click through and actually purchase other products that are in the same image. Video is another way to really bring your site to life and make it look very state-of-the-art. Samsung has this great example of some video content that they're pulling in from actual users. So they selected videos from social media influencers reviewing their products. So they're actually combining a lot of the tactics that we'll be talking about today. They're using video, they're using user-generated content, and they're using testimonials all in one. So altogether, a really effective example of how to bring that all together. Our client Yamaha has this great website that we built that incorporates video on their product category pages. It's really great because it really brings the website to life. We can see the product in action, and it really just draws the user in and makes it stand out. So I love this example. I encourage you to all go check out their website. It's won lots of awards, so we're really proud of it, and it is just a great example of incorporating video into your site. One thing to consider, especially when we're talking about video and images, is that we want to optimize them for viewing so that they're not actually slowing down our page. So one thing that you can do is use this free online tool called Tiny JPEG or Tiny PNG, which is a compressor that reduces the image size without sacrificing quality. So just because we're reducing the image size doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to have grainy, low-res images. It still preserves the high resolution, but just strips away other parts of the file that aren't really necessarily needed, that are just making the file larger than it really needs to be. So the smaller compressed images will result in faster page load times, which will also improve your SEO. Another quick tip is to use alt text. I think that this is a great quick tip along with the last one because it's really just a matter of optimizing what you currently have on your website. So, not really thinking about having to go and produce new content or find new imagery. You're really just optimizing what you already have. So with alternative text, that is text that you add to the image that displays if the image doesn't load on the page. So that's really good for Accessibility reasons, if you have visually impaired visitors who are using screen readers, the screen reader will actually read the alternative text so that user still has a great experience and they can understand what's on the page. It also helps search engine crawlers index images properly and can improve SEO. One little disclaimer there is that you don't want to just throw your keywords onto an image. Really make sure that the alt text that you're using actually describes your image, because you can actually be penalized for using keywords that don't actually describe the image. So for the best experience possible, just make sure it is relevant and accurate. Some tips on choosing imagery. You know, we don't all have the budget to go out and have full lifestyle photo shoots or product photo shoots. So if we do have to use stock imagery, these are two great resources that are free, Pexels and Unsplash. I like both of these libraries because, well, other than being free, they also have really unique, really different types of stock photos that are kind of veering away from that woman eating a salad at her desk laughing type of 90s stock photos that we're used to seeing. And they're really more, you know, lifestyle imagery that looks like it is from a photo shoot. So if you can find something that fits your brand and fits your product on one of these sites, it might take some searching and some playing around, but it's definitely worth checking out. Just a quick summary of some of the imagery tips we discussed. You do want to use high resolution, good quality images, but just make sure that they're optimized so they don't slow load time. Try to use lifestyle or product imagery where possible over stock photos. Make sure that you add alternative product images and to scale images. Those both help give context to the product for your users. Add call to action to your images. Make it clickable, make it actionable, anywhere that we can encourage a user to shop or buy, take advantage of that by adding a call to action. You can also experiment with interactive functionality, videos, dynamic images. And then I also want to encourage everyone to, you know, get creative. Don't be afraid to crop, zoom, or even go out and make your own photography. If we have any of our nonprofit folks online, I come from that nonprofit background, so I know what it's like to not necessarily have those big budget photo shoots, but, you know, we all have cameras on our iPhone, so, you know, you can look up tips online on how to, you know, set up really good lighting and do your own photo shoot for a fraction of the cost of a professional photographer. So get creative and have fun.
The next section here is going to be navigation. So we've optimized the images, great at a glance. Now, where does your user go? A lot of the challenge that people have with websites is no one is in person to help your users find what they're looking for. They don't walk in the store and have you point them in the right direction. So the navigation is going to work as that customer service tool for you. So here's an example of making sure that your headers are focused. Here we've got stationery, and then it's broken down along the left into categories. And then within the categories, I have the individual types of products listed out. This is not cluttered, but it's clear and it's granular. So if I come to this website looking for wedding day cards, I know exactly where to go. I'm not confused. Any kind of confusion in your users is a lot of the time going to result in either a bad user experience and they won't come back, or they'll leave the website. We also want to make sure that the categories are the most relevant things to your brand or services that you're offering. So this is an example from our client MudPie. You'll see that they have first baby and kids, then fashion, home, seasonal, gift shop. So we don't need to go in an alphabetical order. It doesn't have to be in order of season or anything like that. We actually want to go in terms of the most important, most clicks through, what we want to highlight first, and then go from there. I also get a really clear idea from this homepage what Mud Pie is known for, what type of products they're selling, and what their brand is all about. So for example, it would be really confusing if we had highlighted something else first. So always make sure your categories are relevant. So when the user lands here, I know what I'm doing, and it's all very clear to me. Here's an example of an update we did for one of our clients, Sullivan's. So before, they had everything seasonal and brands. So these were kind of high level. It may be hard for someone to find what they're looking for. So we broke it down into shop by product, home decor, bloom and greens, seasonal, and sale. So this was backed up by data that people were going through everyday seasonal and brands to click through to this type of data. So instead of making it hidden inside a menu, we've just called it out in the top nav. This is a great way to optimize the real estate you have. We don't want to overclutter, and we want to make good use of our space. So this is a good way to improve your website quickly. Another great example of keeping your website fresh and keeping that header navigation helpful is by adding some seasonal navigation. So a lot of the time during peaks, whether that's the December holidays, whether that's Father's Day, people are online shopping for something specific. So this all goes back to anticipating user behavior, to doing some of the thinking for your users. So by putting Father's Day first, not only is this company optimizing their chances of conversion and sales, they're also delivering a brand message to those users, like, we know you, we know what you want, here it is. You'll also notice Father's Day is in green, so it stands out a little from these other items. Another great tip, especially if you have any kind of jargon in your product line or in your service offerings, is to include images. First, it helps to break this up visually. It's very nice looking and it's organized. Second, it helps me understand what I'm clicking on. I, as a layperson, may not really know what an X series is from Yamaha, but I can see a photo and know that, yes, that's what I wanted to click on, or no, I was actually looking for the X Deluxe. So images can help your users get a more solid idea of what products are. The other thing you want to keep in mind is different people have their minds work differently. We know that from our lives outside of web, so it's something that can be helpful when you're thinking about improving a web experience. So while I may be a shop by product kind of girl, Erin may very well be a shop by color kind of person. So we want to give the user multiple different ways to drill down to the product or the service that they're looking for. Another positive about making a tweak like this is it's an opportunity for upsell. So if I went to shop by room to find a chandelier for my dining room, but I see next to it the beautiful dining table that goes with it, you as the seller have an increased chance of conversion, or at the very least, you've just exposed more products to me. Maybe I'll come back and buy that table down the road. So it's a good opportunity to expose more. So for a high level, there's a few things that you want to take away from this section. One is you have limited headers. In order to not overwhelm the user, to see good click-through, we never want to go more than 7 headers across the top. So knowing that you have that limited space, we want to maximize on it and use relevant categories that deliver your brand message, that optimize the sales that are relevant to you. The other thing is keep your website feeling fresh and relevant with seasonal navigation, like that Father's Day example that we saw.
Our next quick fixes are regarding content on your website. One thing that you'll hear me and Sarah refer to over and over again throughout this webinar, and if you're one of Whereoware's clients, you'll hear us say it all the time, is that we want to keep our customer in mind in everything that we do. That is especially true for developing content and implementing that on your website. So we want to make our shopping experience or our browsing experience as easy as possible for our users, and we want to make it easy for them to find the information that's relevant to them. So a couple ways to do that are adding selectable color swatches for products that have different options, the same with size, so being able to just quickly find what they're looking for and select that without having to necessarily go through a drop-down. That's a great feature to incorporate. Another tip is to use detailed bullets for your product details and product descriptions. We want it to be easy to scan and easily digestible for our consumers, so they're not having to read through a big block of text to find the one important piece of information that they're looking for. And again, we see including the alternative images, scale images. You can also upsell with product recommendations. So a great way to do that is to add related products. You can add similar products, and that helps, again, make the browsing experience easier. You're putting more of your products in front of your user, and you're also giving yourself the opportunity to generate more revenue. Another thing that you can do is to curate content on your website. So if you have some seasonal products that you want to promote, you can create a gift guide or a blog article that kind of discusses the promotion as it relates to a seasonal holiday, and then feature those items and make them shoppable within that article. Lush does a great example of this with their Father's Day promotion. To be honest, bath bombs aren't the first thing that I think of for Father's Day gifts, but they really made it work here by curating a great piece of content that sells you on the product, that goes beyond just what our visuals and what our product descriptions can do for themselves. Testimonials are a great way to establish trust with your visitors and with your customers. If you're not currently using testimonials on your website, that would be a great first step to updating your content. And it really truly is a quick fix. No matter what type of industry that you're from, you can get testimonials from your customers, whether it's a product industry or service industry. You know, we all have customers that we can reach out to for testimonials, or you can pull them from, you know, online reviews or an existing base of testimonials that you already have. The reason that that's great, beyond just establishing trust, is you can also see from testimonials. And there's a lot of different ways that you can incorporate testimonials on your website. Rent the Runway does a really great example of testimonials on the website. They really take it to the next level. You know, it's not just the typical product reviews on product pages that we see, but they're really taking it to the next level by allowing users to upload photos of themselves wearing the product, and also a description of how it fits, their size specifications. So it's really giving the users the best customer experience by providing relevant information. And it's also user-generated content, so it, you know, is not content that you're necessarily going to have to continually produce. Your users will be producing that for you. So one way to encourage user-generated content outside of testimonials, you can create a hashtag on social media and then encourage users to upload photos of your products onto social media using that hashtag. It'd be great to have some sort of promotion surrounding that, maybe a contest that they can win, you know, a gift card or some type of prize. Our client, Creative Co-op, did a great job of this on their website. They pulled in some of the top submissions that they got on social media using that hashtag and put them on their website and actually made them shoppable. So if you go to their website, you can actually click on this user-generated content and shop the product that's featured in the image.
The next thing that we're going to talk about is conversion. So how can we take everything we've talked about and turn it into an action in some way, some sort of tangible success metric? So the first thing you've probably heard us say a few times is this call to action, often known as the CTA. So it's great that someone lands on your homepage and you have exciting imagery, you have great content. Now, what do you want them to do next? So in this example, we've got these CTAs or buttons that are guiding the user towards the next step. So you'll see here, take a product tour. So the first thing that we like about this CTA is it's specific. I know what's gonna happen when I click on it. It's exciting verbiage. It's not just start, and it's a bright color. On that note, you'll see get started is the same bright color. So at a glance, I have a clear idea of my path as a user and what some key actions are. And I, as the website owner or seller, am enticing users to go deeper from the homepage. An important thing about the call to action, though, is that where a user expects it to go. I said before that a confusing experience is going to turn someone away from your website. So if I select Shop Women in this example, my reasonable expectation is that I'm going to be taken to a page with women's products. Similarly, if there's some call to action to shop sale, I want to see only sale products, nothing else. Another great example of getting conversion is, yes, you want users to click through, go look at products or service offerings. Another common goal is I want to collect information so I can market to these users, I can expand my customer base. So one thing that we can do as a different type of call to action is an email sign-up. First, we can do it with a promotion. So we're incentivizing the user to give us their information, either for some sort of % off, free shipping, something like that. Or, in the other example, the incentive is monetary, it's just get an interesting newsletter and learn something new. It's also worth noting a few things we talked about before. Both these CTAs are actionable, sign up or join, and they're pop-ups. So that means they're interrupting my experience on the website, they force my attention, and for that reason are more likely to see conversion. Now, the other thing a lot of people have on their websites are forms, whether that's for collecting information, whether that's requesting a demo. They're easy to get to make a change if you're doing it in this other way. So this is one of those really quick tips. You'll see here, the one on the left says submit. So it's forgettable, it's not a bright color, it feels generic. Even the styling of the button somehow looks kind of old-fashioned. And on the right, it's a complicated form. I don't know what, just at a glance, I don't know what I'm supposed to do, and I don't want to take the time to read all of that verbiage. So both of these are not particularly helpful and probably won't see that much conversion. Now, on the other hand, these forms we prefer for a few reasons. The one on the left, get a demo, is descriptive, it's brightly colored, those colors are the brand colors, it makes me want to click it. Now, the example on the right, there's two things to call out here. One is that there's two different buttons for the same action, sign up for Facebook or sign in with your email address. So it's two routes of getting the information I want, but it could be specific for a user. So we're giving them two opportunities. We have two touch points. The other thing on this example is there's a little call out about privacy policy. In today's world, people are very concerned with cybersecurity. Where is my information going? What is it being used for? So it's really helpful to build brand trust and awareness to your users by having some sort of disclaimer that links to your privacy policy. Especially with any users who are in the older generation, This goes a long way towards feeling a sense of trust with your website, and then they're more likely to provide the information you're requesting. Perhaps the most important place to encourage conversion is at the purchase point. So in this example, we've got the product detail page. On the page itself, on the left with the lipstick, I see all the tenets we've talked about with that button, brightly colored, exciting, and on brand. Now on the right, in checkout, there's a few things to highlight. Again, I see a descriptive CTA with a color that grabs my attention. And at checkout, a bonus, it's more visual. So a lot of words doesn't tend to retain attention as much, and having the image makes me mimic a brick and mortar experience a little more. I don't have in my hand the lipstick that I want to purchase. Having the image along with the product name and SKU helps keep me on track with what I put in my cart. It could be from a few weeks ago. The last thing you want is a user saying, I can't remember what I purchased, I'm not going to complete checkout. We always want to make that easy with fewer clicks rather than more. So here's an example of a form that is really well done. So let's start on the left. That's the first screen. We're asked how much we're going to donate. We have an action CTA, donate. Now we get a pop-up that's going to ask for my information. And then the button says payment info. So it's going to pull me through to the next page. What I like about this is I know what the next page is. I know the previous page I was on. Now the last page, again, we've got that carry through. It's reminding me how much I donated with Give $60. And by splitting this into 3 different screens, we're reducing the amount of information that I have to give at any one moment. A form that requests all of this may be overwhelming, it may be a deterrent to completion, but with 3 easy steps, each of them ask for 3 to 4 data points, it makes me feel like this whole experience is faster, it feels smooth, and then I'm more likely to complete filling it out. So overall, the ways to see some good conversion is we always want to be descriptive with our calls to action. Again, this goes back to anticipating what someone's going to be asking. There's no one there for them to ask a question to, so we need to be able to answer it before they can even ask it. So we want to always give the submitter what they expect. If we're saying go to women clothing, we want to see women's clothing. Anything gray or boring or something that may lose attention is not recommended. We always want to use a color, something on brand. A long form is never a positive experience. It can be boring, it can take a long time. So that same idea applies to checkout. People only have so much time these days, and if we're not able to deliver what they want within a short period of time, we may lose their attention or lose their business. So fewer clicks on checkout with CTAs and in general on websites. A direct path is always the best path.
Our last quick fix that we're going to talk about today is optimizing for mobile. No matter what type of website you have, we always see a split between desktop users and mobile users. So we want to make sure that we're giving our customers a great experience no matter what they're viewing our website on. So desktop versus mobile design, some of the key differences are that the desktop design is going to be sized differently and optimized for mobile viewing. So what that looks like is, the navigation can size down to a hamburger menu that's just a simplified icon. So that's reducing the amount of text on the page and it's reducing clutter. Again, incorporating that white space that's making it easier on the eye and is making it easier to view and navigate on mobile. The sign-in button is moved down so that in that limited space, we're not having too many things in that corner. If you think about trying to click that with your thumb, click that hamburger menu icon with your thumb, and the sign-in button is right there, there's a lot of room for error. So having it move down below the women and men buttons is going to be a lot more effective and a lot more easy to use. You'll also notice that there's a reduction in the amount of images and the amount of text. So the women and men black boxes that are at the bottom in the desktop version are hidden in the mobile version. So simplifying the design and reducing the amount of assets on the page. So while we want our websites to be as mobile friendly as possible, there's a difference between a website being mobile friendly and a website being fully responsive. At Whereoware, we like to code fully responsive websites. So the difference between that is on a mobile friendly site, it's basically just sizing down the existing content and sizing down the existing assets to make it fit on the different screens, which I think is a great first step if your website currently isn't mobile friendly. Responsive website, though, is obviously the better solution, but it does require more work. So that's going to look like, going from desktop to tablet and mobile. Images are going to stack differently. Like I mentioned in the previous slide, some assets are going to be hidden. One thing that's really important with responsive websites is about how your forms and your buttons look. So with our form fields, imagine trying to fill out a form on your mobile device and it's completely zoomed out and it's the same size as it is on the desktop version. That's, first of all, that form field is going to be really hard to click into to get your cursor onto it. And then it's going to be really tiny and really difficult to read. So on a responsive website, those form fields will be larger, the buttons will be larger. So think about the kind of area of a thumb or a fingerprint. You want to really consider that when you're designing your mobile buttons, to make sure that everything is going to be super clickable and super easy to use if someone is on a mobile device. Just summarizing some quick tips here for mobile. Definitely want to think about your finger. Buttons, just what makes sense to make it click. I think that their actual pixel guideline there is like no smaller than 44 pixels in any dimension. You want to keep your design very simple. Incorporate white space, cut down on your text where possible. I know sometimes it's hard to cut out some of our text, and a lot of times we want to have as much information on our website as possible. But if you find yourself, having several blocks of text throughout your site, just take that text back, paste it into a Word document, and go through it again, and just look to see where you can cut it out. It'll really make a big difference in the user experience. You can also incorporate icons, so translating elements that would be, like that navigation that's taking up a lot of room, it's a lot of words, translating that into the hamburger menu icon. You're still getting the same functionality and usability. It's just going to be optimized and better for mobile. You also want to make your contact information easy to find and double check that your forms are mobile friendly. So that's all we have for you today. Just going to summarize some key takeaways. Your updates don't need to be complicated. I would go through this PowerPoint presentation and look at some of the low-hanging fruit that you can glean from this and see what's going to be most realistic for your team to implement. Everyone might be at a different stage with their website, so hopefully you'll be able to find things in here that will be really truly quick fixes for your site. You always want to design with the user in mind. I think we said that at least a dozen times throughout the presentation, but it really is the most important. Get inside your user's mind, use those analytics tools, see where they're clicking, see where they're going, do user testing. And, again, if you don't have a huge budget to go hire a user testing, sometimes it's an internal team and going through and saying, hey, like, what makes sense here? How are you finding this experience? Go for short, relevant, on-brand content when you're making changes to your website. You want to stay true to your brand and make sure that your customers are getting a unified experience. They don't want to log onto your website one day and completely not recognize anything about your company and about your brand. But if you stay on brand and make those changes gradual, then it's going to result in a more seamless experience. And our biggest tip that we say with absolutely anything that we do at Whereoware is test, test, and test again. There's a lot of testing tools out there. And again, sometimes that testing is just going to look like you and your team internally clicking through it yourself. But you just want to make sure that your website looks great on all platforms, that if you're incorporating those mobile design elements, that images are stacking properly and that images are hidden that should be hidden. So we just want to always test. And I'll hand it over back to Nora.
Thanks so much, Erin and Sarah. That was a great webinar. We have a special offer for anybody who is not an existing Whereoware client. If you reach out to us from now through July 20th and mention today's webinar, you can get a free 30-minute website consultation with a Whereoware marketing expert. So this is a really great offer. I really hope a lot of you on the webinar do reach out and take advantage of this. If you have any questions, you can chat them to us now, and we'll go through as many of them as we can in the next couple minutes. I just saw somebody said, who do we reach out to? Reach out to us on our Contact Us page. We will also be sending out an email with slides, the recording, and the checklist. Either later today or tomorrow morning, you can always follow up to that email, and we'll be sure to get in contact with you about the offer. So feel free to send us any questions you have now that you may have. Otherwise, if you need to jump off, I totally understand, but thank you so much for joining. We're just going to go over a few questions here. It looks like we have a few minutes. I just want to be conscious of everybody's time. Which of the 5 quick tips should I start with, and how do I know which one to start with? I mean, a lot of them were really great. Like, how do I know which one that I should start with?
Yeah, I'll take that one, Nora. I think some of the quicker ones to start with are the tips that are looking at your existing assets and your existing content and just finding ways to improve on them. So going back to the imagery and content slides, that means optimizing your images. So if you have images on your website that are large file sizes, you can resize those using a free online tool, add your alt text, add keywords if possible and if it makes sense. And then another quick tip that we had mentioned is using testimonials, because that's kind of a content piece that's not going to hopefully take a lot of manpower on your end to produce. Usually you have testimonials or product reviews, and just bringing them onto your site can really build brand trust and make a huge impact. Great question.
Thank you. So you guys talked a lot about like testimonials, and you showed the Rent the Runway example, but you said like you can grab testimonials if you have reviews on your website or on other platforms. So what if you don't have any reviews and you don't have a bank of testimonials already? Like, how do you get those?
I can take that one. I think there's a few different ways to go about it. The first is the examples we showed with testimonials are very thorough. It's like at the bottom of every product page associated with everything. To start with, it could be as simple as adding some verbiage on the home page from just one user. So the first thing is we don't have to add much quantity. You don't have to have a giant bank stored up. But the second thing is about how do I even get one testimonial to use on the home page or somewhere. I think it's a great opportunity to reach out to your users. You've got a lot of people have a loyalty program or something like that. So talking to somebody who is on the website often and making a lot of purchases, it's a great way to show that you value them as a customer, that you want their testimonial. And I think this is one of those things where once you have one, it kind of opens the floodgates, because it can be an opportunity for share your story here, and now you've got engagement, you have people thinking about how great your service/products are. So I would say just start with one.
Yeah, I totally agree, Sarah. And just adding a little bit onto that, one thing that we recommend a lot to our clients is with email marketing, you can actually set up an automated message to go out once a product is purchased or once a service is redeemed, an automated message that requests a testimonial. So I think being proactive and having those programs in place to where you're proactively reaching out to your customers is a great thing to have.
Great, thanks so much, guys. It looks like we're going to wrap up here. For anybody who's asking, we are sending out the slides, this webinar recording, and a checklist in an email either later today or tomorrow morning. So definitely keep an eye out for that. You will have access to this recording of this webinar. And thank you so much, Sarah and Aaron, for presenting today. It was awesome content. Thank you so much for everybody who joined us. I hope you will join us again for another WOW webinar. Have a good one.